to the heart, taking a breath, closing our eyes, taking up a seat in the house. Ah, you have arrived. You are home. And the only place where we can truly feel at home is in our own hearts. No matter where we live, who we love or are loved by, where we work, what we do, all that is an expression of being truly at home in our own hearts. So take a deep breath into your heart and settle in. No matter how settled you feel today, the heart always awaits our breath, our full presence, our deeper knowing that we are spirit in form. And so whatever you name that, whether you name it God, life, divine love, truth, essence, name it what feels right for you, and then claim it as your true home in your heart. Let this make you more receptive to the experience at hand, which is just an experience of remembering what you already know, what already lives inside you. It's always calling your name. It's always calling you closer. Knowing that divine right action is taking place right here, right now. And every right here, right now after. So when our ego mind, our human mind, aligns with that, it shifts our experience. And we feel peace. And then we become the peace that we so long for. And then it shows up in the world. And then it ripples out and comes back, multiplied above it. So come home to your heart with the next breath. And then if you wish, you may open your eyes. And come back to Good morning. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Morristown. I'm Frankie, the spiritual director here. And I'm so glad that you decided not to stay in bed on this cold, rainy morning. It's very tempting, right? Very tempting. So welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Morristown. I'm Frankie Timmers, as I said before, the spiritual director here. And look how blessed we are. We have James Brough with us. Let's give him another warm Morristown welcome. He recently did a concert with Anthony. That was really, really fun. And Theo is assisting me as the assisting practitioner today. So you get to actually hear from him. We have a little surprise, and then we have a surprise later on. We have a surprise visitor that's going to share a little bit with you. But what we always do here first is a spiritual mind treatment. So I invite you to close your eyes and just to tune in, because the spiritual mind treatment is our word for affirmative prayer. So as we tune in to the one mind, we'll let it be heard by your mind. So right here, right now, as we allow ourselves to be fully present, we open our minds and our hearts and our bodies and our souls to the wisdom at hand. Whether it comes from the music or just being here, or the words spoken, or the environment, or your simple showing up. Today we are all open and receptive to hearing at greater depth, to hearing from that place that is the eternal wisdom that is already within. So it becomes not just a hearing, it becomes a recognition, a deeper, deeper knowing. And this deeper knowing is then nourished by our own spiritual practices. And so whatever those practices are, today we make a deeper commitment to our spiritual evolution, trusting that our human experience is perfectly conducive to that, because it's an effect, cause being our own spirit and our experience of that. So we listen with different ears today, and we are blessed with many gifts and much grace, and so it is. I want to start with a poem today. If you wish, you can close your eyes. It's one of my favorites, by one of my favorite poets, Mary Oliver. And the title of the poem is perfectly conducive to today. It's called The Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass. The one who is eating sugar out of my hand. Who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So that poem I have taped to my bathroom wall, bathroom mirror, and it's a poem that I get to read every day. Because if there's anything that I forget, it is that. If I get to choose what to do with my wild and precious life, how wild it is and precious it is. So you get to ask yourself that question, right? What do I get to do with my wild and precious life? Life is a gift. And we hear that all the time, right? Life is a gift, life is a gift. But do we live it? Do we actually live the understanding that life is a gift? Do we really live this idea that life is precious? If there's one thing that I hear people say who are dying, is they say, don't waste a minute. Don't waste a breath. Life is precious. And so we hear these reminders, right? We know in his teaching that we are made up of God stuff. I love what Stephanie says, we're made up of stardust. We're made of God stuff. Each of us incarnated into this human experience because the universe needed an instrument so that it could express life as a wild and precious life. And therefore it created each of us for that purpose. The thing that happens very often is the moment we're born, we forget. So life really is about remembering, forgetting, and using that to make our lives more wild and more precious. Now, wild doesn't always mean what we might think it means. doesn't mean dancing naked on tables while you're getting drunk. It means a whole lot more than that. Your life can be so wild and nobody may notice. Right? And so, as being instruments of the divine and knowing that you are God's stuff, that in itself makes life wild and precious. And then we keep asking the question, how do I live that? What do I do with that information? What do I do with that information that I'm God's stuff, that I am an instrument for spirit, that God's spirit universe created me out of itself, for it had a need for me in its life. And it doesn't mean we become activists necessarily. It might be you're going to hear from 4 amazing activists later. We're going to be here, right, Karen? In this space at 12 o'clock. We're having a community activism event, and we're going to hear from 4 amazing activists that are doing great work in the world. But that's not for everybody. Some of us are more quiet activists, and we do the work in consciousness. It may never be noticed, and you may never be celebrated for it. But you know the difference, and you know where you are on that spectrum, where you're living wildly out loud or quietly. And so how do you live that? Are you living that? So that's what I want to talk about today, and then I want to talk about what's on the other side of that. What's the opposite of that spectrum, and that's death. And then I want to talk a little bit more about how we can live this wild and precious life, and then Theo is going to really take us deep. He's going to do a guided meditation for us to get more in touch with that. And then you're going to hear a little bit from our special guest, so you have to stick around. So what is it that gives you life? That's a really great question to ask ourselves. And I know that you already know what that is, because it's when you feel really good, when you're in the zone, when you feel happy. So for me, it's being in nature. That always restores my soul. It always brings me back to remembering how wild and precious life is. It always brings me back to being centered. And it might be that I'm just sitting in the backyard listening to the birds. It might mean I'm taking a walk. It might mean I'm taking a hike. But being out in nature somehow is like having a holy communion. And so for you, it might be when you're making art, when you're making love, when you're writing, when you're doing your spiritual practices, when you're making music, when you're in service to the community, when you're taking care of an animal or a child. There's so many things, but it's really important for us to find out what they are and then to do them every day. I know you have lots of excuses why you can't. I'm working, but there's always something we can do in our day that restores our soul, that gives us a few minutes of remembrance of who we are and of our precious life. So it's something that we want to do often. I'm always really shocked when people say, oh, I can't wait for my vacation, and they just got back, right? They live towards that 2, 3, 4 weeks next year or next summer, and they forget to live and take mini vacations, even if it's 5 minutes. And so then it's about feeling that sense of wild and precious life that you get to live now, not someday when you have more money, when you're healthier, when you have that perfect right relationship, when you have that perfect right career or home or car, but right here, right now, because it sets the tone for the universe to manifest for you the greater ideas that you long for. And so it's feeling that sense of being alive. Feeling alive. Think for a moment what that feels like for you, what that looks like, what that means. I have noticed when I walk around the community, or I'm in the world, or I'm shopping, or I'm at the movies, I pay attention. I look around. I kind of feel the energy of people. I look in their eyes, and I'm finding that there's more death than life. There's less vibrancy in people. They're just kind of the walking dead. Maybe that's why I don't like that show. Ugh. Anybody like that show? Some people love that show. See, you have to tell me later why you like it, because I tried to watch it for 5 minutes once and I was like, whoa. So, I love that you love that. So, but doesn't that feel like that sometimes, don't you feel like sometimes that you're around a walking dead? So if you have people around you that are vibrantly alive and that are happy and that are kind and loving and joy-filled and grateful, it's a whole different experience. I think we are hungry for that. The hunger in itself, part of that hunger is for us to live it, not to look for it, but to actually be living it. So here's the bad news, which I think is also the good news, is that you're going to die. So are your loved ones. We don't know when that's going to be. Maybe sooner, maybe later. It's a big mystery. Most of the time we don't know, but it's going to happen to all of us. Hi. What are you doing in here? You're supposed to be outside. You want to go outside? It's not following. She, I don't know. Sorry. Neutral gender. All right, we have a little wasp in the hood. So it's going to happen. And I think the more peace we make with that, the more we become aware of how precious life is. The more we resist it, the more we become fearful. And the more fearful we are, the more dead we will feel inside. We can't fully embrace life if we don't embrace death. We can't fully embrace life if we don't accept that this experience here is temporary. And none of us really know how long it is. Burt Reynolds died. So what? He was going to die. We knew it was going to happen. Aretha Franklin died. Yeah. And so we can grieve that and feel pain around it, which I think is okay. I think it's appropriate to feel grief. But I think to stay in the grief and to not work with it so that we become more alive is a wasted moment. So you can be sad. It's important. Part of the process, but it's knowing that it comes to an end for all of us. I think it's so great that they both had such a long, productive, powerful, amazing life, surely with some tragedy in it. I'm surprised when people are surprised that somebody dies. Really, I really am. I'm so surprised that people are shocked when somebody dies. We're going to die, all of us. The more peace we make with that, the more we live in the present moment and suck the marrow out of it. I have a new app on my phone. It's called We Croak. It's a great app. I think it's free. And you can decide how many messages you are sent throughout the day as a reminder that we're going to die. And so I have 5. Kind of like the Muslims, they are reminded of the connection with God within, and they pray 5 times a day. It's kind of like that for me. And on the cover of the app, it says, in Bhutan, they say contemplating death 5 times daily brings happiness. Isn't that great? Contemplating death 5 times a day brings happiness. In other words, is to cultivate a consciousness that's not afraid of death, that's not afraid of loss, because truly nothing is ever lost. No one is ever lost. I feel just as close to my 4 siblings and my parents that have passed away than I ever have. They live in my heart. They guide me. They give me information. They support me. They give me advice that I sometimes don't want to hear still. And it's just about listening to the heart. So we must face death if we are to feel fully alive. That means that we have to deal with the fear that we have about death. And fear is just a sense of separation from our essential nature. So the way that we face fear is we reconnect with our heart, our home. with the truth of spirit within, with our own soul that guides us, because our soul is the only part of us that is immortal. And so we practice this idea of living each day as if it is our last day, so that we arrive at a place that we truly understand that life is precious, that we have some things to heal, we have some regrets to release, we have some forgivenesses to do, we have some more learning to do, we have some more self-expression to live, we have some more loving to do, some more peace to embody, or whatever it is for you. I know you already have the answer. You already have the answer to, if I died tomorrow, what would I regret? Don't put it off till tomorrow. Just work with that and live it, and then allow yourself to dissolve the fear, which again is just sense of separation from your own spirit. And so the question, what shall you do with your wild and precious life, is not wasted. My meditation teacher says, I always imagine God saying to me when I'm worried or afraid or wasting my time, I imagine God saying to me, you're doing this with what I've given you? That's always in my mind. So I find myself worrying or being anxious or being afraid, and I just go, I'm doing this with my precious life, with my being spirit incarnate. Quickly, I then know the answer of what to do instead, which is to trust, to surrender, let go of control, set myself and others free, etc. And so, we don't want to stagnate. And you know where you're stagnant. You already know that. It's where you struggle. It's where you feel stuck. It's where you're most afraid. That's your growing edge. So it's not about how long you live then, it's how you live. It's not about how long you live, it's about how you live. And as mature adults in this room, the beauty is that we can ask that question, how then shall I live? How then shall I live this wild and precious life? My teacher used to say over and over and over again, he probably said this more than anything. He said that the question you are asked when you're making your transition is how much did you learn and how much did you love? Not how much money did you amass, what kind of career did you have, what kind of car did you drive, what kind of work did you do, how much money did you gather up, but how much did you learn and how much did you love? And I believe that's true. And even if you don't believe that's true, don't take a chance, because it's probably true. So there's a wonderful poet that I really love, and I hope I say her name right. I have it on my little book. This is a little book by her called Salt. It's Najira Waheed. Anybody familiar with her? Najira Waheed, and she's one of my Twitter friends, and I love her the most. This is what she said. What is the weight of your life? Look for it. And when you find it, the thing that is resting on top of you, grieve it and let it go. Isn't that great? What is the weight on your life? What weighs heavy on your heart? Look for it. And when you find it, the thing that's resting on top of you, grieve it and let it go. The other one that she says is, to make alive what is quiet and asleep in your existence, to do that work, to find you in you, that is art to me. Your life is a work of art. And it's spirit expressing itself through you, because that's the only way it can do it, through you. And so we have to remember this. And that's the other thing that people say at the end of their life, that's most common that I've heard, is that it's all about love. It's all about love. And you know what the beauty is about that? Is that you already are 100% love. You're already loved. The universe loves you completely and unconditionally. And every time we complain that we don't feel loved, we're telling ourselves a big fat lie that does more harm than you will ever be able to understand with your mind. Those of you that are seeking love, stop seeking out there. Find it inside yourself. It isn't out there. The love out there is simply a reflection of the love inside. And so we all have a longing. The longing is maybe about love. It may be about something different. But we all walk around with this thing in our heart that is unfulfilled, where we might feel like something is missing. And it may be about love, or it may be about something different. But that is spirit longing for itself by means of you. And if you're wasting your time trying to find it outside yourself, you're saying, I am separate from my essential nature. I am not loved. And that's exactly what wants to be healed. And so it's so interesting to me that when we complain about relationships, the lack thereof, or what we're getting or not getting in relationships, that's exactly the avenue for us to open up to God's love and to let it pour in and to believe in it, to accept it, to welcome it, to receive it. And then we become a magnet for love. Then we express it in the world. Then we make the world a more loving place. So pay attention to your longing, because your longing says, wait a minute, it's already in you. It's already who you are. It's not something to be sought. So we pay attention to what we believe when it comes to there not being enough love, or there not being the love that you want or need. And to know that the only love that is truly fulfilling is the love that is already within you. It's your essential nature. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie on Netflix by Bishop Carlton Pearson. Anyone seen that, called Come Sunday? Today's a good day to watch it. This is an amazing movie. It's a documentary about his life. He was an evangelical Christian, and one day he just didn't believe the idea of sin and hell. And it changed his life, not without torment. But the question that he ends the documentary with is this. It gave me the chills. What is it about loving everyone unconditionally that scares us so much? Isn't that a powerful question? What is it about loving everyone unconditionally that scares us so much? Oh, and I took that question deeper and I asked myself, what is it about loving myself unconditionally that scares me so much? What is it about letting God love me unconditionally that scares me so much? What is it? Because it's always fear when we don't feel loved, when we don't feel lovable, when we don't feel loving enough, when we're not getting the love we think we deserve or need or want. We're the only thing that stands in the way, and it's our own fears of surrendering to unconditional love. And maybe that's what this wild and precious life is about, to surrender to unconditional love. I know it is for me. To surrender to the unconditional love that God already has for its creation. And to take that deeper and deeper and deeper, and to be willing to move through what's in the way, whether we consciously have to work through it or just let it go already and not waste our one wild and precious life. Life is such a mystery. You will never figure it out. You're not supposed to. You have some questions that you've been asking all your life. You're not supposed to have the answers to. Some questions cannot be answered But the question that can be answered is this one. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? And so it is.
Thank you. Hello. I am Theo Tilton. I'm a licensed practitioner here at Centers for Spiritual Living, Morristown. And today I'm going to deliver a beautiful guided meditation and experience, leaving you with a question at the very end. Let's all close our eyes. And take a conscious, deep breath and sigh on the way out. Let's do that 2 more times. And now as we resume our normal breathing, this is life. This is the experience of life. This is my life. Imagine that you were standing in the middle of a room, and beneath your feet there is a 7-pointed star. Each point on that star represents an area of the experience of your life. In your mind's eye, let's rise up and float above the star. And you can see the 7 points. Notice the brilliance of the star. Notice that each point is not the same. Notice that each point has a different color. Notice that the length of each point is longer or shorter. Notice that there's a brightness to the star, and that the longest point is the brightest, and the shortest point is the dimmest. These 7 points represent your experience of life. The first point is time and freedom and order. It could be represented by your calendar, your closets, the order of your wallet, or your car, or your home. How big is that point? Is there order, or is there complete resistance? The next point is vocation and career. How big is this point? Is it small and mundane? Or is it huge, filled with inspiration? The next point is your spirituality, your spiritual practice. Are you short and feeling disconnected, or are you hugely connected? The next one is wealth and prosperity. Are you in lack, or are you feeling the abundance of the universe? The next one is health, wellness, and well-being. Are you miserable with your health? Or are you unstoppable and unshakable? The next one is community. Are you alone? Or are you connected to a beautiful, wonderful, powerful community? And the last one is relationship. Love and intimacy. Are you unlovable? Or are you filled with the love of the universe? Looking down at this star, you may notice that each point is different in size. Which one is your shortest point? Space and time, vocation and career, spirituality, connectivity and community, love and relationships, wealth and prosperity, or health and wellness. Choose the one that you feel is the smallest. What can you bring? Who do you need to be? What step can you take today to expand this life experience? I want you to make a choice for yourself right now. If you have identified an area of your life experience and you know the step you want to take a stand. If you feel that every area of your life is harmonically abundant, take a stand. If you feel that every single area of your life needs attention, but you're willing to work on that one thing, take a stand. Take a deep breath and sigh. And let's all stand together. Now is a time where we get to share. As a community, we are one. So pick that one thing that you said you were going to do today and share it with somebody. You have 2 minutes.
So our special guest is someone who came into these doors, I don't need this, many years ago. And she left 3 years ago to be closer to her family, her daughter and son-in-law and grandchild. And that's Gail Martfin. And Gail left her mark. She's everywhere. She's everywhere. You just have to look around and know that her touch and her love has been left behind and still carries us. So Gail is going to talk a little bit about how classes affected her life, but also how service changed her life. So Gail Martfin, you get the mic. No, it's on. Kevin just has to give the other one.
Thanks, Kevin. Good morning, all you beautiful instruments of the divine. I opened these doors in 1999, and very shortly I became a member because it was the first place I really felt this was my spiritual home. I remember walking in and hearing Dr. Frankie speak and just nodding the whole time. It felt so good. I didn't know it at the time, but my 25-year marriage was coming to an end, and I am so grateful that I was already situated among spiritually like-minded people to help me get through that very sad time. And I cried at least once a class for the whole first 2 years. But that sharing and growing in those classes was the foundation for some really real friendships, which I cherish to this day. My first class was a prosperity class where Reverend Janice, who was just Janice at the time, was my prayer partner. And I took all of the 100 and 200 level classes to really understand the science of mind, teaching, and to put it to work in my life. I just naturally wanted to get involved in making this place more inviting to other people. And I remember the day that Stephen Bartlett and I finished the front of the sanctuary up here. And later I sewed these 2 banners. This was in honor of when Michelle Wadley became a minister, and this was a follow-up. And these are, of course, real tenets that you can always be thinking about. I think the first seva I did was as a greeter and helping out with the children's classes when they needed somebody. And if there was any sort of fundraiser, I was always volunteering to help. And then I facilitated a book group for several years when the leader couldn't do it for a while. I became the organizer for the Friendship Hall Gallery space downstairs, which my friend Jean Lee now handles. I helped to run the Awaken Spiritual Film Festival for several years, which was a big fundraiser for this center. And eventually I served as a board member, which is now called the Leadership Council, for 3 years before I moved in 2015 out to Santa Rosa, California, where my daughter and my first and only grandchild so far is. So I now live very close to a huge Center for Spiritual Living out there. There's 1,000 members. They have 3 services on Sunday. But I want to tell you that this center has advantages. It has room to grow, and it has room for you to be involved. It's easier to get to know, much easier to get to know people here. You just need to make an effort in social hour and sit down with somebody that you don't know. And better still, help clean up afterwards and get to know the people that you're washing dishes with. You can suggest an idea to anybody who's on the Leadership Council and then work to make that idea happen. And have I mentioned this already? Take classes. In fact, this or really any center really needs the participation of the people who come here to step up and make the place thrive. So talk about it when you're out and about. Bring more people in. It's wonderful to see more diversity here than when I left. Let them know that this jewel exists. I encourage you to spread the word, to do your part, to be as generous as you can financially. I'm still an auto giver, even though I'm in California, but I can only be a member of one center, so this is not it anymore. But I do still support it and love you. And then see, when you do all this, see your life and see how it transforms. And as, I can't remember the name of the, Julie, who spoke? Lori. When Lori spoke last week, she said, maybe your life doesn't even look that different from the outside, but it feels and looks so different from the inside because of what you learn here, because of the community that you can build here. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Well, everyone. Oh, so next week we have another special guest that's going to share. She doesn't know it yet, but she. So what I want everybody to do, I would give you each a pen if I had been to TD Bank lately, and have you sign up for a class. Sign up for something. This Tuesday, Lynn Sebert will be doing a class. Nobody has signed up yet, so if today nobody signs up, it will be canceled. Then next Sunday, there's a free workshop. No more complaints about we never have anything free, because it's a free workshop. It's for everyone. It's not just for anybody who's curious about classes. Then a class begins a week from Monday, and it's called a spiritual path. It's for beginners and for advanced students. It's on Monday nights, and it's on Thursday mornings, so there's a time slot for most of you. Then we have, in October, a new class, a class for anybody who's interested in new members, being a new member, or at least finding out what that's about. And I want you to be sure today to stay and come back here for the community event that Karen is creating and planning with Sarah. So we're going to have some wonderful people speaking about community activism. And then a big comedy event with our beloved Marion on October 20th. And the last thing I want to point out to you is Stephanie over there is a brilliant therapist and a brilliant teacher. And she's doing a powerful workshop that is a Friday night and a Saturday all day, October 12 and 13, and it's only $95. So talk to her if you want to know more about it, but the flyer is out back as well. We need you to sign up for them, or it really helps us with preparation. So the last thing I want to do, and I know we're running a little bit late, but inspiration hits and I can't help myself, is I want you to think for a moment about something that you want to release. Something that came to you today, you said, you know what? I'm done with that. I don't need it anymore. You're going to stand now, and you're going to have that one thing in your hand, metaphorically, please, symbolically. I want you to check and make sure you're ready to let it go. Are you sure? Be sure. Because sometimes we say, I'm ready to let go of my belief in lack, but we really aren't, because it gets us a lot of miles. So really think if you're really ready to let it go. When you're ready to let it go, I want you to come up here and place it in this bowl, which I will leave here and every day this week come in and treat. That which you have placed in the bowl is dissolved and replaced by a fulfilled longing. If you want to participate, great. If you don't want to participate, it's fine too. You can stay seated. But I want you to quietly, no conversation, quietly, come up, place it in the bowl, and then we'll make a circle in the room. It might fit all around the room, but maybe it fits in the 6th row, between the 6th and the 7th row, but we'll do it quietly, okay? And then I will do a treatment. So when you're ready, come on up. More life. More of our wild and precious life. More of the freedom we are here to embody and live. More of the creativity that is the law of our being, that is responding to our consciousness, to our belief. So today we have released something that no longer serves us, and it is replaced by the opposite. Whether it's in full-blown form or in the form of a seed, each of us nurtures it with our prayers, our affirmations, our meditation, our spiritual mind treatment, our breath, our heartbeat. Our every waking moment is now infused with more life. And we are blessed, and therefore we bless everybody around us, because a freer person is a gift to the world and transforms the consciousness of the collective. So we are so blessed to be in the presence of so much life, so much letting go, so much longing for greater freedom, and so much support by means of how we each uniquely embody this beautiful teaching. And so we have much to be grateful for, and that we are, and so it is. Have a great day and a great week, everybody.